The Merrimack Historical Society welcomes you to this episode of To and Froe. Today we are visiting with Barbara Watson, and she's going to tell us about a house that she owned on Amherst Road, and what's happened to that house recently. So, Barbara, tell me about this house it's not the house that we're sitting in, obviously. It's the house up the street at 124 Amherst Road.
Yes, yes. We've owned it for quite some time.
Okay.
Harold and I owned it, and Harold has passed away. And we did a lot of repair work. And it just got to the point where you couldn't really repair it anymore. The floors were sinking. And then the beams weren't really holding things up anymore because it had a dirt floor. And the chimney was beginning to separate from the home.
Okay.
So we decided we'd have to take it down because we didn't want any hazards in there that would harm any future tenants.
Sure.
So we decided to take it down. But it was a nice home. The fireplace was huge. It was real pretty. And one of the first things that we did years ago was put new siding on the house.
Mm-hmm.
We had shakes on the house before, and when they were taking the shakes off, I think the carpenter says to me, "Come here, I want to show you something." The insulation was pine needles. If the match had been lit, the whole house would have gone up.
Holy cow.
But
So
they used pine needles to insulate.
this decay.
Yes.
Tell me about the age of this house.
Well, they seem to have it as 1855, but I'm thinking it might be even older than that.
So one of the clues that we have for the age of this house is this nail right here.
Yes.
So I've been told that this is a cut nail as opposed to a blacksmith hammered nail. So these were used after 1810, I believe. So this is a clue for the age, because this was inside the house.
Yes.
But the house also had additions. So apparently there was an older addition, or older part of the house
Right.
that had the hammered nails.
Yes, yes.
So
That would be the front of the house. The back end of the house was added on to after.
oh, okay.
Yes.
But added on in the 1800s.
I'm not positive
Okay.
when it was added on to.
Okay. But then we also have this sign from the Merrimack Heritage Commission
Yes.
that says that the house is dated 1855.
Well, they evidently went back as far as they could, and that's how they got 1855. I don't think the town records were that accurate way back then, so it could possibly have been before then.
Sure. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's 2x4 plank on
Wow.
top of those 4x4 rafters.
Yeah, yeah.
And you got 4-inch plywood on top of those planks. So it's pretty solid.
And you get the crazy too. They get the tent. There was nothing. There was no asbestos under there.
And then apparently there was a barn in the back of the property.
Yes, but the barn was taken down many years before I had moved here, and I think before Harold had moved here.
Okay. So, Barbara, who lived in the house before you got it?
Now, before Harold purchased it, he purchased it from Walter Peavy.
Walter Peavy.
Okay, and there were a lot of stories going way back about the way the property was then. That we didn't have all these houses here,
Right.
and they used to call it Peavy Hill, I believe, because it was steeper until they put the bridge in. And
So you mean
built it
Amherst
up.
Road?
Amherst Road,
So
right down just beyond where Peavy lived, the road dipped way down.
right, and it still dips down now,
It's
but not
still-
as much.
But not as much, and they've got like a little bridge going over there now.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But that used to be a lot steeper.
Oh, yes.
From
Used
what
to be a
I've
lot-
heard stories about this as well.
Yes.
And so the neighborhood kids would get on their bikes
And
they
they
would
used to race down there.
they'd call it PV Hill
Peavy Hill.
until it flooded,
Yes.
and then they wouldn't race down. But
Yeah.
and Amherst Road was not paved at the time; it was all dirt.
No, it was a dirt road.
Isn't it amazing?
Mm.
Just, I mean, in our lifetime,
Oh, yes.
the changes.
Oh, yes.
Are just
Yes.
So I've also heard stories of when they paved the road, they would bring in these oil trucks, oil tankers, and they would put down some of the tar,
Yes.
and then they would put sand on top, and then the cars would drive on it and pack it down.
Yeah, it's like they were oiling the dirt so that it wouldn't probably fly all over or whatever.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, compared to what we do today, it's just
yes.
amazing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I grew up as a child, we didn't have many people that lived in town at all.
Well, on this road alone, there used to be, there weren't as many trees or anything like that. It was a lot of open fields. So the houses were far and few between.
Yes.
And I imagine another clue for the age is this post that was used in the beams
Right.
for the house. So, and you've saved some of the beams from that house.
Yes, we saved beams.
And you've given a few to the
We've
Historical Society.
We've given 2 to the Historical Society.
Excellent. That's going to be really special. And so this beam obviously is hand cut. I mean,
Yes.
this is how houses were held together.
That's how they were held together then.
It's just fascinating.
A lot different than the way they are today.
Yeah.
But they held up for a couple hundred years.
Right. But now this one had problems because the foundation was so low.
Yes.
Especially in the wintertime, the snow would stack up against the house.
Yes, in fact, because it wasn't a cement basement and it was a dirt floor, that made a lot of difference too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So there must have been constant moisture.
Oh yes, there was always moisture, and I think that harmed a lot of the underneath flooring and everything.
Yes.
All the yeah.
Well, yeah, you talked about the flooring sort of sagging.
Yes, in fact, you walk in there and it's a little bit wavy. You'd have to get used to it.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, the things that we get used to in our houses, huh?
Yes.
So you tried and you put a lot of money. You didn't want to tear this house down.
No, we didn't want to. We didn't want to. I like old houses.
Well, yeah.
But it was where you couldn't keep repairing it. It was too costly to keep repairing it.
Sure. Now, that chimney, did you ever repair the chimney?
I repaired the chimney quite a few years ago. I want to say maybe 15 years ago.
Oh, you did? So I saw a photo at the Historical Society where the house has been taken down, but there's that chimney.
Yes.
So you obviously did a good job.
That was the last thing to go, was the chimney.
And did they say...
Wow.
Did they save the bricks or anything? Were they old bricks?
Well, they weren't bricks. It was a stone chimney.
Oh.
But it cost thousands of dollars to repair it at one point.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was leaking.
The chimney was
The
leaking.
chimney was leaking. Mm-hmm.
Kind of sounded like a little bit of a money pit.
It was definitely a money pit.
Yeah.
It cost us more than what we got for rent.
Oh, that's... So let's talk again about those beams that you're going to use for the mantle. They're made out of chestnut,
Yes.
which is not a wood that's not found
Right.
around anymore because the American chestnut.
I was told by
was
somebody
killed.
that there were a lot of chestnut around here.
Well, that would make sense
And what?
if they used it. Yeah. But most of the American chestnuts were killed by blight. So
Right.
so it's really actually kind of valuable that you have this piece of wood that's historical in many ways. It's a piece of our environment that is no longer around.
That's a piece of history also.
And it's a piece of history, exactly. So when you decided to
When we decided to tear it down, I said to my son, I says, well, why don't we donate it to the fire department for training? So he talked to the fire chief, and they said yes, but they wouldn't burn it.
Right.
But they would use it, as far as being able to, break in if there's a fire or escape if they were inside. So that's what they did.
So they used it to sort of like
Yeah, they had
break down walls or windows or
yeah.
things like that. So they sort of tore it apart. but they weren't allowed to burn it because it's not because it was historical. It's not that they didn't want to burn it. They're not
Right.
allowed to burn it anymore
Right.
because you can release toxic things into
Yes,
the air.
and I had to have it all checked out first. We had to have somebody come in and check it out to make sure there was nothing hazardous there, and we had to take care of anything that was hazardous there and remove it before they would even work in there.
So did they find any asbestos in there?
I don't know exactly what they found,
Okay, but you said
but I think there was probably maybe around the pipes in the basement.
yeah,
possibly.
usually. So Barbara, another thing that you had told me that you had to be that the house had to be tested for was lead paint because that was very common back
they
in the
had to-
day.
They had to check for anything that would harm the environment.
Sure.
Even to tear it down, and I imagine they have a special dump that they take all this to. So we had to pay to have somebody inspect the whole house, top to bottom,
Oh, really?
to make sure that there was nothing toxic there. And then they had to remove anything that was there.
So are there more nails and things like that?
I'm sure there are.
All
I'm
right.
sure that there are more nails.
So maybe we need to take a little field trip and see if we can find any.
Yeah.
Be nice
Maybe
to.
if you checked where the dumpsters went, you
Oh.
could find them.
I don't mind crawling through a dumpster or two if it
Yeah.
means preserving
Oh,
history.
these are big dumpsters.
Oh, well, that's where the term dumpster diving comes in.
Yeah,
just
dumpster
dive.
diving.
But it would be nice to get one of the blacksmith nails to compare it with this one, and
Yes, it would be.
maybe you can frame them or something.
Mm.
But it's just it's another piece of Merrimack history,
Yes.
and unfortunately, it's no longer with us. But you've got great memories of it and great stories.
Oh, yes.
And it's
I mean, it was nice. And it was a nice, cozy little house for someone,
so. Tell me about the house proper. How many floors were there?
Just one floor.
Okay.
And an attic.
All right, and what was the setup?
The setup,
Well, what was the floor plan?
the floor plan, well, if you went in, say, the side door, there was a room on the right.
It sounds like you loved this house. You
Oh,
just
yes.
really
Yes.
appreciated it and
I
loved it, and
loved
you
it,
tried your
yeah.
best to save it.
Oh, yes, we tried. But there's only so much you can do. I mean, there's only so much money you can put into something that old,
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, other than possibly lifting the house off of but even then.
Yeah, but I don't even know how safe it would be to lift it up. I know, like we tried to donate it to anybody if they wanted to move it.
Oh,
But I don't think anybody thought they could move it.
yeah.
But we would have donated it.
And you said the basement was a dirt floor.
Dirt floor in the
Did
basement.
it have this
The
stone?
only thing valuable, probably things like this.
Yeah, and then
And a nail.
yeah. Well, I mean, just to document the history.
Hmm.
That's the value of these. Just a
Yeah.
very important part of our town history. Well, thank you so much for sharing this with us.
I enjoyed it.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, no, we appreciate that you've shared your stories and your memories and your experience living
And
in this house.
I was glad that I was able to donate it to the fire department for training because it gave a final use of the house.
That's important. It didn't just die a death.
Yes,
it
yeah.
died a good death.
Yes.
John L. Reed Home, 1855. So said the Merrimack Heritage Commission. A home where many people lived, played, worked, survived, prospered. And when an old home is foreclosed on, we usually can't see all of the great contributions to its existence. But in this case, we're going to be able to open it up and speculate about everything that happened there and how it happened. As it turns out, this was land that was originally part of old Dunstable, New Hampshire, long before the line between New Hampshire and Massachusetts was set in 1741. This was a colonial building. We don't know who settled here. We do know that it's definitely 18th century construction, a primitive foundation, a center chimney, replaced at some point in the remodeling of old buildings with a large fieldstone chimney on the end of the structure. But as the building is being opened up, we see the true post and beam construction that is unequivocal in terms of the age of this building. Many, many people have lived here.
The Merrimack Historical Society is here today with Captain Bickford of the Merrimack Fire Department. He will be conducting fire survival training here on this old home. I'm here with Captain Bickford. Captain, what's going on?
Well, we've got this acquired structure that the owner has kindly allowed us to do some training in, and what we've been doing this week is we've been doing what we call wall breaches, which consist of getting from one room to another. If we're trapped in a room and we have no other way to get out, there's no windows or any other means of getting out, we can travel from one room to another. And basically what we do is we clean the wall out, whether it's plaster and lath or sheetrock, and then we round out the hole, maybe knock a stud to the side, and then we crawl through the other side. It's just one of the things we do for firefighter survival. We work in a dynamic environment, and things change at the snap of a finger, so we need to know how to handle situations when they arise.
Thank you.
You're almost better off burying your star on the side of it and using this as a guide to go straight down. Because if you come over this far,
Which is interesting. So, when you walk in,
Hi, Chris. So what do you think?
Oh, I gotta get some tools. Big square nails over there, and there's also pegs in the beams.
Oh, I saw that.
Did you see that? Yeah.
I got a lot of video of that
Oh.
when they saved them.
Oh, good.
So yeah,
Yeah, that'll be
It's going to be a
interesting.
nice story.
Yeah, I was just looking at a book there, and there was here's a broken one, but this
Oh.
is small. There's great big ones over there.
Oh yeah, the old-fashioned nails. Look at that.
But there's the big ones over there.
Really?
Did you see the big ones? They're about that long.
No,
They're in the beams,
no.
and pegs in the beams. And then I was trying to read, there's a library book over there. And it said City Library, so it wasn't here. And the name is Styles or something.
Oh, yeah, the Styles that were here, that lived here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old bones of the house have been carefully set aside. These are still valuable even today. They're either going to be used as rustic pieces for new construction, or they might be sawn up into boards It appears that these are chestnut, and chestnut doesn't grow around here anymore. It was wiped out around 1900 for the carriage trade uses. These beams have all been chamfered very carefully to make them appear a little bit more finished than just a rough beam, and it was tried to improve the appeal of the interior of the home by using things like wallpaper to paper over some of these old beams. And so the primitive gave into the future, and ultimately into the 20th century, where remodeling took place, and ultimately an old house just can only stand just so long before it needs to be reconciled to history. And I'm sure there'll be a lovely new home built on this lot, and they will at least have the old apple tree to show that 200 or 300 years can go by. Modernity likes things tidy. That's the way we do things now in this complicated, urban, compact world. And so, this will all disappear, and a new home, and a new family, and a new member of our community will come. This documentary is dedicated to Barbara Watson, a distinguished native of Merrimack.